Picture this. You are 71 years old. You are driving home from your granddaughter's birthday party on a Friday evening. The roads are familiar. The route is the same one you have driven for 23 years. Then the lights come on behind you. Blue and red in your rearview mirror. Your heart rate spikes. Your hands tighten on the wheel. You pull over and you wait, and in the next 90 seconds, because of 5 sentences you did not know you were allowed to say, everything could go wrong or everything could go right. Today, I am going to make sure it goes right. I have spent years studying police encounter law, reviewing body camera footage, and analyzing what happens when older Americans interact with law enforcement during traffic stops. What I keep seeing breaks my heart. Seniors are disproportionately talked into giving up rights they legally have because nobody ever told them those rights apply to them too. They comply when compliance is not required. They apologize when no apology is needed. They explain when explanation only creates more exposure. That ends today. Before we get into it, if you are watching this and you want to stay ahead of your rights, subscribe to this channel right now. We release new videos every single week covering exactly what you can say, what you do not have to say, and how the law actually works during traffic stops, police encounters, and more. Hit that subscribe button now, and let us get into it, because what you are about to hear could protect your freedom, your wallet, and your dignity the next time those lights come on behind you. This is educational content only. For specific legal guidance, please consult a licensed attorney in your jurisdiction. The first thing you need to understand going into any traffic stop in 2026 is that several states have updated their laws around how officers must conduct themselves during stops involving drivers who are 65 and older. Some jurisdictions now require officers to identify themselves and state the reason for the stop within the first 30 seconds of approaching your vehicle. You do not need to prompt this. It is legally required. But knowing it means you know when an officer is already operating outside their protocol, and that information matters enormously if the encounter escalates. The moment that window comes down, you have rights in full effect, and those rights do not shrink because of your age, your prescription bottles in the cup holder, or the ARP card in your wallet. The first thing to say in any traffic stop is not an explanation. It is a calm, clear acknowledgement. When the officer approaches, you say this: "Good evening, officer. My hands are on the steering wheel, and I am not reaching for anything." That is it. Nothing more. This accomplishes 3 things simultaneously. It signals that you are not a threat. It establishes on camera that you are fully cooperative with the physical requirements of the stop. And it says absolutely nothing that can be used against you later. Seniors are often conditioned to fill silence with explanation. The nervous energy of the stop makes them want to pre-justify everything. I was just coming home from my doctor's appointment. I did not think I was going that fast. I have never had a ticket in 15 years. Every one of those sentences is well-intentioned, and every one of them creates material the officer can use. Say your hands are on the wheel. Then stop talking. The second thing you need to know is the difference between a question and an order. Officers during traffic stops frequently blend the two, and older drivers especially tend to treat every question as something they are required to answer. You are not. When the officer asks where you are coming from, that is a request. You can decline. When the officer asks whether you have been drinking, that is a request. You can decline. When the officer tells you to step out of the vehicle, that is an order, and you must comply. The legal phrase that protects you the moment questioning begins is 4 words. I prefer not to answer. Not no comment. Not I'd rather not say. Not a shrug. A clear, calm, audible statement. I prefer not to answer. Practice saying it right now without apologizing after it. I prefer not to answer. That is a complete sentence. It does not need a sorry attached to it, and adding one weakens your legal position on camera. The third thing is about searches, and this is where seniors lose ground faster than almost any other group. Officers during stops often ask to take a look in your vehicle or check the back seat or verify that everything is okay with a quick look. It sounds routine. It sounds like something you should just agree to. It is not. You are never required to consent to a vehicle search during a routine traffic stop without a warrant or probable cause, regardless of how casual the request sounds and regardless of how many times the officer asks. The phrase that protects you is this: I do not consent to any searches. Not, I would rather you didn't. Not, do you really need to? A clear, affirmative statement. I do not consent to any searches. This is your Fourth Amendment right in full effect. Courts have ruled that silence or vague responses can be interpreted as implied consent. You must say the words clearly. I do not consent to any searches. If the officer says he is just trying to help, you respond without variation. I understand, officer, but I do not consent to any searches. Say it as many times as necessary. Say it the same way each time. That consistency is what creates a clean, protected legal record. The fourth thing involves medication, and it is a situation unique to many senior drivers that almost no one prepares for. If you have prescription medications in your vehicle and an officer notices them, you are not required to explain what they are for, how many you take, or when you took them last. Medical information is protected under federal privacy law, and it is not subject to roadside disclosure during a traffic stop. If an officer asks about your medication, you say this: those are my legally prescribed medications, and I prefer not to discuss my medical history. That is a complete response. You have identified that they are legal. You have declined to elaborate. You have said nothing that creates inconsistency or invites further questioning. If the officer pushes further, you add, I am respectfully exercising my right to remain silent on this question. Do not let a question about your prescriptions turn into a conversation about your dosage, your diagnosis, or whether you feel fine to drive. That conversation opens exposure you do not need to open. The fifth thing is the most important sentence you will say in any traffic stop, and most seniors never say it because they do not know they are allowed to. Once the officer has issued your citation or completed the purpose of the stop and has handed back your license and registration, you are permitted to ask, Am I free to leave? This is not rude. This is not suspicious. This is a direct legal question that requires a direct legal answer. If the officer says yes, you say thank you, officer, and you leave. If the officer says no, you are being detained, and at that point you say, I am invoking my right to remain silent, and I would like to speak with an attorney. That sentence ends your obligation to answer any further questions. You do not need to raise your voice. You do not need to argue. The law is already on your side the moment you say it. Am I free to leave is the sentence that tells you exactly where you stand, and knowing where you stand is the difference between a 10-minute stop and a situation that spirals far beyond what it should have been. Here is the reality that connects all 5 of these things together. In 2026, the laws around traffic stops, consent searches, and the rights of drivers have not gotten simpler. They have gotten more layered, more jurisdiction-specific, and more consequential. What an officer can and cannot do during a stop in California is different from what applies in Florida, in Texas, in Ohio. But the 5 phrases you learned today work in every state because they are grounded in the United States Constitution, not in state statutes that change with every legislative session. Your Fifth Amendment right to remain silent, your Fourth Amendment protection against unreasonable searches, your right to know whether you are being detained or are free to go, these are federal constitutional rights, and they travel with you to every traffic stop in every state in this country. They do not expire. They do not come with an age limit. And they do not require an explanation or an apology when you use them. Commit these 5 sentences to memory right now. My hands are on the steering wheel, and I am not reaching for anything. I prefer not to answer. I do not consent to any searches. Those are my legally prescribed medications, and I prefer not to discuss my medical history. Am I free to leave? Write them down on a card and keep it in your glove compartment if you have to. Read them before your next long drive. Practice saying them out loud in your kitchen until they come out of your mouth without hesitation and without nervousness, because hesitation and nervousness are what body cam footage looks like when someone who does not know their rights is figuring it out under pressure. You are not going to be that person. You know your rights now. Say them like you know them. This is educational content only and not legal advice. Laws governing traffic stops and your rights during them vary by state and jurisdiction. Always consult with a qualified attorney for guidance specific to your situation. Your age is not a liability in a traffic stop. Your knowledge is your protection. The officer at your window is doing their job, and you are doing yours, which is to remain calm, remain respectful, and remain protected by every right the Constitution gives you. Knowing what to say is the only preparation that actually matters when those lights come on behind you. If this video gave you something you needed, subscribe to this channel right now. Every week we publish new content specifically about your rights, how to use them, and how the law works in the real encounters that real people face. This channel exists so that seniors, and every driver on the road, knows what to say before they ever need to say it. Subscribe, share this with someone you care about, and we will see you in the next video. Know your rights. Use your rights. And remember, your silence is not weakness. It is your shield.